So, John, as we sat down and started talking about some of the people that you met while you were in federal jail, I actually thought that was not that I would ever be starstruck, but I thought it was interesting the dynamic you had with certain individuals, some who I either worked on their case or specifically knew about their case. So, are you able to talk about anyone you met while in federal prison?
I think the most interesting person that I ever met was when I was in FCI Danbury, and that would have been Tom Spoda, the former district attorney in Suffolk County. He was in the RDAP program. I was finishing the RDAP program in Danbury, and we became friends, which is really unusual because...
Especially with your background, which is...
I did, yeah, exactly. I did...
You were very, and still are, especially with your writing, you're very anti-government or government intrusion, or... actually, Tom Spoda was probably one of the last people I thought that you would be friends with. So that's interesting.
He knew my uncle, and that's the reason why we struck up this, because he came up to me, and he said, "You relate to Stephen Derunian?" And I said, "Yeah, it's my uncle." And so he knew my uncle, and he was telling me about him, and that's how we became friends. We used to like walk the yard, and here it is, a convicted murderer with the former district attorney, just chopping it up about legal issues in the yard.
And you were prosecuted in Suffolk County, but not by his office.
No, I was actually prosecuted in Nassau County.
You were prosecuted in Nassau, but with the feds, you were prosecuted in Eastern District,
in
but Central
Islip. Yeah, Central Islip. But Tom, I used to bounce ideas off of Tom, legal, ideas, and he gave me a few, especially with the feds. They tried to accuse me of murder, and Tom gave me some ideas, and I've been exploring those. I actually explored them, and right now, I'm in the Eastern District of New York on a FOIL tort, and I got the U.S. Attorney's Office so tongue-tied that the only thing they're coming at me is that my work is being ghostwritten.
And I'll say this for anyone watching: I am not drafting John's work. John is doing this work on his own. So the feds actually think that John's work has gotten so good in doing work with me, they actually think that I'm writing his work, and I'm not. On this one, and they're accusing him of either having an attorney that they don't know about, or someone is ghostwriting his work.
So what?
You're not allowed to do that.
You're not allowed to do it.
If I'm an attorney and I'm ghostwriting for you or for
That's
John,
like
I would have to
advice.
let I would have to let the court know that I'm doing the writing, because they treat pro se litigants differently. And attorneys have to put their name on and their liability on any case. Right. We have to be held responsible. That's why I say to people, I'm not signing my name onto your case unless this, and this is done. Right? That's the importance of signing your name and being retained and actually formally getting on a case. But there is no informality when you're in court. So, John, needless to say is that they're actually kind of accusing John of having someone, and I think they're saying it's me who's doing his work for him and not telling. So John's going in on that right now, explaining that he's doing his own work, and it's just that good.
And I think the problem is I write better than the assistant U.S. attorney, because he put in a motion and made him look stupid. The judge denied it a couple of days later. On this issue with the ghostwriting, that I'm getting assistance from another attorney, his argument is ridiculous. That's all they have. Instead of producing a record that really could exonerate me, all they're doing is deflecting with nonsense.
But that case is initiated because of ideas that you had walking around the yard with Tom Spoda.
With Tom Spoda. Exactly. That was a catalyst. When I would talk to Tom told me, "Why don't you file a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act, and see what they have?" And I did. And the results were shocking. Everything that I was told by the United States Postal Inspection Service was contrary to what the assistant U.S. attorney had said.
During your case?
During my case, at sentencing, everything. It was all a lie. And now this AUSA doesn't know what to do. So his only argument is that Derunian isn't doing his own work. It's impossible. Somebody's ghostwriting his work. And
so we're gonna do a different segment on your cases. Who else did you meet worth mentioning?
Paul LaRue, who this guy was a quintessential James Bond villain. He did.
Didn't he have a book?
He did. It's called The Mastermind. It wasn't his book. Somebody wrote a book called The Mastermind. This guy was so incredible. He was dealing with meth with the North Koreans. He was dealing with secrets with Mossad. He was trying to take over an island. I think it was the Seychelles. I can't remember which one. With his own mercenary army. What he did is, because when the feds got him, is he gave up his whole organization. So this created a ripple effect with other people getting caught up. But he ended up with 25 years, even on a K-1 too. But
Really?
He was an interesting character. He used to pay for his phone time with crypto.
So
He was an interesting character.
what?
I met all the gentlemen that testified against El Chapo.
Hang on, stop. What?
The battery's running low.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we could wrap that one. We could wrap this one up. All right, so
You got 10%, so you got a couple minutes.
all right, so John, after let's think about final thoughts or conclusions, and if we're gonna do it, we could easily do another segue on this.
You know,
What about Fort Dix? Forget about Diddy. Fort Dix overall. Give it a grade. Let's give Fort Dix a grade. And that was the last federal jail you were in, right?
No, it was the second to last. But for me,
It
Fort
died.
Dix,
Really?
Fort Dix isn't a prison. It wasn't a prison when I was there, because there was a lot of times I didn't feel like I was in prison.
Dan, can you see if there's something over there? That's still going.
It was different than anything that I've ever experienced, because I did 24 years of maximum security in the state of New York. And being at Fort Dix, compared to the eyes of looking at maximum security, Fort Dix was like a country club, even with all
Yeah.
the craziness.
So when they say club fed,
That's Fort Dix.
Yeah.
That's pretty much Fort Dix. But, you know, the only reason why it's club fed is because of the access of contraband. That was it. The
Well,
alcohol,
what about
tobacco.
freedom?
You had the freedom where you didn't have a cell that locked behind you,
Yeah.
that you were out and about. You didn't see gun towers. You didn't see you really didn't. You could actually not see a CO except for during accounts the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 3 times a day. And if you're up for 2 of the counts or sleeping during 2 of the counts, you may see him once a day. And a lot of stuff happens at night. It's just like Fort Dix never sleeps. It never did. I mean, there was always something, a party going
So
on.
if we have a client and we're talking to them about potential places, is Fort Dix on your list?
Fort Dix would be on my list. However, the only caveat with Fort Dix is the lack of programming. I mean, I left.
So you can't get more than that. You can't get more good time.
That's the problem that I think Diddy's going to have, is that everybody, because of the First Step Back, everybody's trying to get into the RDAP
But
program.
then there's certain. Yeah, but here's the other thing though. Has anyone taken into account whether or not his charges are First Step effect? Are they eligible?
I think they are.
Because violence usually disqualifies
but he's not
you.
convicted. He's not convicted
He's
of
not
violence.
convicted of violence, but there was violence alleged
But
in
you
his.
know what? That's a very good point, because
Uh-huh.
they're going to look at his PSR, and they may interpret that violence and knock
Uh-huh.
him out the box.
I got a good idea to start off a new segment with.
Because I've seen that happen.